Hey folks, Travis here from Alpha Kettlebell Workouts and TroyMAnderson.com. Great question that came through from my buddy Jason. I'm not going to massacre his last name. But the question was double kettlebell swings, inside or outside legs. And I actually have a third option or answer for that for you. And there's a rationale behind that. If you kind of follow our Alpha Kettlebell principle of the 2+1 when you're purchasing your kettlebells, what you'll generally have is a pair of kettlebells that are on the lighter side and another single bell that's on the heavier side. So that's kind of the nice interplay when you're purchasing your equipment to expand out on your home gym, that 2+1 principle kind of allows you for, and it's a great way to add extra load. We're actually going to show you that third option that actually makes it even more valuable, that if you have kind of under purchased early on and gotten a size too small, that it'll actually make up for that and you'll still be able to get great use out of your smaller kettlebells. What I've got here is a pair of 20 kilo kettlebells. And I'm going to talk through a couple of the talking points that have kind of led me to this third option or third philosophy, which is my preferred option. A lot of kettlebell folks are talking about double kettlebell work now as a way to kind of armor build or a way to produce hypertrophy, muscle gains, strength gains in the body, and it's a great tool for that. I just happen to prefer a little bit third option. It's a little bit unconventional, but super value, and I believe it gets you a better benefit and better bang for your buck on your kettlebell side. So the common way to double kettlebell swing is to set up in a wider stance. Obviously, the bigger the kettlebell, the wider your stance has to be in order to accommodate the kettlebells hiking back through or creating that hip hinge that's so valuable to swing. I'm going to show you the front position. The reason that I don't like this is not my preferred position, is that you've got this width and you're dissipating force left and right as opposed to that vertical hip hinge, hip flexion, hip extension. So it looks like such. I also believe it gives an opportunity to lever the back a little bit easier because you're creating a way for the kettlebells to go through or hike through between the legs without the hip hinge being as dominant. So hinge, looks like this from the side. All right. That's a really common way. That was one of the options Jason asked about. The second option is the outside swing. I think the outside swing gives us another little bit better opportunity than the in-between the leg double swing to create hip hinge, but I think it's a little bit harder to engage and stabilize. So I'm going to show you both angles of the outside swing. A more normal kind of deadlift squat stance, if you will, for it, and it's a hinge. Again, it looks as such. I think this is a better option than the inside the double swing. I think it's just a little bit harder to control. I think it's a great way to get on that hip hinge side as opposed to having the kettlebells back past 3 minutes. My preferred option in actuality for all double kettlebell work is to go into our staggered stance. It's a body positioning, a change of position that moves us more towards unilateral leg work or unilateral hip hinge work with velocity and speed, so there's some value there. What it does when we move towards that unilateral, it allows us the spectrum of our lighter kettlebells as far as being able to use them to become a lot larger. So if you have a pair of 12 kilo kettlebells, it might feel pretty easy to do inside the leg double swings or outside the leg double swings, but if you move to that staggered position, there's some other benefits, but if you move that staggered position, you're basically working off of one leg for all means and purposes. Staggered position, take your normal stance, and this slide subtly to a heel to toe position. My left big toe is pretty much lined up with my right heel. Then all I'm going to do is drive from this leg. I have to be active on my trail leg or my left leg, but I'm not using it to drive. It's just there for stabilization. So like I said, it's not purely unilateral, but it's unilateral dominant on my right side. So it looks as such. Up into position here, nice and tall, and I'm splitting the lead leg. leg as such. I don't do either of the other two versions for my double kettlebell work. I stick strictly to the stagger. It allows me to focus on one hip. It frees some mobility hip to hip, because there is some mobility issues for most people left to right hip wise. If we get in that double, any of those bilateral or double positions, I think that's where. The other thing that allows us to do, for example, that the outside double swing does not allow us to do, it allows us to start to complex off. Obviously, when we're in that split position with the kettlebell's capacity between the legs, we can combo off into some cleans and presses and things like that. We can't do that quite as readily and easily with the outside swing. But if we move in that staggered position, we're getting the best of both worlds. We're getting broadening of the spectrum with how far our lighter kettlebells can be usable. We get to focus on single or more unilateral work, hip extension, hip flexion, hip hinge, whatever you would like to call it, and all those things. So regardless if it's a swing, a double high pull, a double clean, a double snatch, that stagger position is the preferred double position for me, and it offers and opens up a broad spectrum of your kettlebell training. So there you have it. Appreciate the question, Jason. Hopefully this is helpful.